Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, brought to you by our friends over at Briar-Greaves Insurance. Protecting your assets starts with a company you can count on. So whether it's auto, homeowners, flood, boaters, or business insurance, Briar-Greaves Insurance are the best people in the business to work with. So visit briargreavesinsurance.com or give them a call at 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166. It is a Wednesday edition of the Pewter Report podcast, and we have another heavy hitter joining the show. We've had some great podcasts recently, and we have another fantastic guest joining the show. We'll get to that in just a moment. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me is the face that runs the place at pewterreport.com, SR, Scott Reynolds. And coming on as a guest, a two-time guest of the Pewter Report podcast, going into his fourth NFL season, coming off of a year where he was an every game starter, had his first two career interceptions in his early career, won the Good Guy Award last year for dealing with the media, but I venture to say he's a great guy. Making his return to the show is Zyon McCollum, Bucs starting corner. Zyon, thank you so much for joining the show. How's everything going? Everything's
been amazing. I'm glad to be back.
We love having you back, man. It's a blast, and you certainly are a great guy. And I think your name has appeared in a lot of Pewter Report articles over the last couple of years. Not even when stories about you, because you give so many great support quotes about your teammates, and you're pretty candid. You're a straight shooter, and we appreciate that. Not just a Pewter Report, but the entire media. That's why you won that Good Guy Award for sure.
Of course, yeah. No, it was a really an honor. I like to think that I can be a voice, especially in a business where it's kind of hard to do at times. But I just have fun with it, and I'm honest always, and I enjoy you guys as much as the opposite.
Very cool.
Yeah, we appreciate that. It's also it's called the Mark Cook Good Guy Award, and Mark Cook was the co-host of this podcast, so it's certainly meaningful to Pewter Report as well. We got a lot to get into on today's show with you, Zyon. We're going to talk about this upcoming season, but want to take it back a little bit to last year. So you got a lot of playing time 2 years ago, a lot of spot starts, but last season was truly the first time you were an every game starter. So how was that from you from a preparation aspect? Was it comfortable just kind of staying in one spot for all 17 games and in the playoff game? How was that for you?
Absolutely comfortable. I was anticipating that it would have been a lot easier to just focus on one spot, and it definitely was. Just being able to watch film, basically. I'm a film junkie, so being able to focus this and hone on that specific spot, and then worry about also my help around me and get to understand the defense a little bit better, because I'm focusing so much time into learning this one spot. Now I have more ability to branch out into other positions, and so it was more comfortable. I enjoyed it.
You were the Iron Man last year. You're the only guy in the secondary that started every game.
Yeah, there's a big quote where it says that availability is
best ability is availability. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And Rondé Barber, shout out.
Yeah.
And I take very good care of my body, and I have a good routine that I like to do and every morning. And so I love to be out there on the field, whether I'm hurt. A lot of people say you need to know the difference between being hurt and being injured.
Yeah.
And, playing through hurt is nothing that I haven't done in the past. So.
Yeah.
I mean, every Bucs fan knows they surely needed you out there, just given all the injuries that happened to the team, but specifically the secondary. And while it was a good season for you, it ultimately didn't end the way that the whole team wanted to, getting bounced in the first round by Washington. So just curious, how much have you thought about that game? Have you used that loss while you're working out and getting ready for this season as kind of like fuel, putting a chip on your shoulder, motivation, or have you just kind of flushed it away and been like, that was last year, now I'm moving on to this year?
Yeah, the entirety of last year, there was a ton of ups and downs, and, injuries are only inevitable in a physical game like this. So being able to roll with the punches and the team to be able to fight the way that it did, I was really, really proud of everybody. And that last game, it sucks to lose at any time, especially in a primetime situation in a playoff. And so we definitely thought about it. I thought about it, right after, and took time to dwell on it, watch the film, try to learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
But then moving forward, looking ahead and looking into next year, understanding what we have and understanding all the turmoils that we had been through with a lot of young guys getting significant snaps and at least learning while we're learning, we're putting ourselves in position to win big games. It was really good to see, and it's a lot of motivation moving forward.
Yeah, you mentioned bouncing back, and Pro Football Focus had you giving up 7 catches for 126 yards and unfortunately 2 touchdowns in an overtime loss at Atlanta. But then you bounce back a few weeks later by allowing 0 catches in the rematch, often against Drake London. How locked in for that game were you? And what is it about you just being a resilient cornerback? You have to have a short-term memory, and boy, you really balled out in that second game against Atlanta.
Yeah, for me, it's just short-term memory is definitely something you need as a corner, and it's something that I've had to learn on. It's the NFL. A lot of guys make plays too. Everybody gets paid too. But for me, just bounce back games are extremely big for me just as a person, because I play this game very personally and I take losses personal. When I lose a rep, I take it personally, as in I need to get better. I have to do something more. And so especially in big games like that against a divisional opponent, when you get punched in the mouth, I mean, it was a similar feeling to that of Detroit in the playoff game previous. And you're extremely locked in, and you just take a lot of that energy and intensity, and you can either, it can either be too much and it can overpower you and you can go into a turtle shell, or you can use it and fight back. And so I'm always accustomed to fighting back, and especially versus Atlanta, they make it easier.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to ask you. Is it going to be personal for you going up against the Falcons now? Specifically, when you've been in the league with the Bucs, the team has had a lot of success. You made the playoffs every year, winning divisions. But last year, even though you won the division, the Bucs did lose to the Falcons twice. So how much are you looking forward to kind of evening the score against the Falcons this year?
Exactly. I mean, it's always on my mind, especially divisional opponents. But the Falcons in particular, since I've been had the pleasure of playing with the Bucs, I mean, the Falcons have always been a team that is just a fighting type of team. It's been a dogfight. We've had dogfights with the Saints, but for me, for some reason, it's just the Falcons. I know they have a good receiving core, and I came in with Drake London, so it's always a good battle to go toe-to-toe with him 2 times a year. But it's something about Atlanta to where, they've got the better of us the past 2 times in the year, and that's a particular team that I always love getting after. And so, like I said, Atlanta is a team that is continuing to put pieces together as well as everybody in the NFC South, but it's definitely a team that we have a lot of fun competing against.
Yeah, when you look at one of your best games last year, it came in Kansas City on Monday Night Football. You gave up 4 catches in that game, but for only 8 yards. and you were often matched up against speedy wide receiver, the rookie, Sevasier Worthy, who was the fastest guy at the combine, right? You're known for your speed. Is that one of those matchups where you were really looking forward to it, and once you saw you were going up against Sevasier Worthy on just about every rep in Kansas City, you're like, yeah, let's have the track meet every down. You ended up winning that.
100%. Whenever you go against a fast guy, that at the end of the day, they could always get tried deep. And for me as a corner, when the ball gets thrown deep, that's an opportunity because the ball's in the air for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And as I've gotten better and gotten comfortable with getting my head around, it's an opportunity to go catch an interception. And playing guys like that, you kind of know how they're going to be schemed as well. Offensive coordinators use fast guys a lot differently than they use possession guys and more specific route runners. So going toe-to-toe with speedy guys like that, knowing that you got an opportunity to catch some deep balls down the field, but also kind of having a better feel for how they'll use them in the scheme is something I always enjoy.
Zion, if I would have told you before the season opener against Washington that the Bucs secondary would only have 6 interceptions last year, you told me your goal was to get 6 yourself. But if I would have told you before the season started that the entire secondary would get 6, the entire defense only got 7, what would you have said to me back in August?
Probably would have thought you were joking, especially after it being such a big emphasis for myself and for everybody as a defense to, get those takeaways. It was definitely something that, we fell short in, and it's something that we're disappointed in, but also we have an understanding of all the different things that we had gone through and all the different pieces that were getting plugged in every single week and the changing of the guard. But there was an understanding. There has to be an understanding of next man up in terms of everybody who's on the field needs to play like an all-pro, needs to play like a starter, or at least adopt that mindset and really go after the ball. And when we're playing together, when everybody's trusting everybody next to each other, then that just frees up the mind to be able to make some big plays like that.
What do you think is going to change this offseason to help you guys get more interceptions? I know Coach Ross was talking about catch 50 balls, every day, but I mean that didn't obviously work. Are there going to be any things drill wise that you guys are going to be doing? Coach Bowles was talking about having more competitive practices for sure, where it's more good on good, and not really worrying about the injuries. You guys were snake bit a little bit with injuries, but sometimes it's no risk it, no biscuit, as Bruce Arians, once said. What's going to change this offseason for you guys to come away with more of those interceptions?
Sure. I think it starts just with cohesion and togetherness within the group. I think the safeties and the corners and the nickels, we're going to start meeting and being with each other a lot more and practicing together a lot more. And there's going to be a little bit less division in that aspect. It's far off just communication pieces, because when everybody's trusting everybody next to you again, you're able to play at that high level, to play really, really fast. And it's going to be a lot of that cohesion and togetherness is where we need to take that next step from this defense becoming a complete unit and a one. Yeah. I see, in media, and I see in the locker room, the offensive line is probably the closest group of guys I have been around since I've been playing sports.
Yeah.
And us as a team can learn from that. I mean, I feel like this is such a close locker room as it is, and it's such a good culture for everybody to just be themselves.
Yeah.
And the O-line, they take it up a notch. These guys will die for each other.
Yeah.
And so it's also, having that rub off on the rest of the guys and the rest of the locker room in terms of us coming together as a cohesive unit and a group to where we're willing to go out there and die for each other to make these plays.
Yeah.
And competition and OTAs and in training camp, that's always the best, in my opinion, to breed. There's no better practice than competing at a high level, good on good, best on best, when the intensity is at the highest and everybody's adrenaline is pumping the most. And being able to practice and simulate games like that, I think, is going to be a tremendous help.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should be really big. And speaking of competition, whether you knew it or not, you were in competition with Tyke Smith for being tied for the team lead in interceptions with 2 interceptions on the season. That was also the first 2 of your career. The first one came against the Detroit Lions in week 2, and then later on against the New Orleans Saints as well. But going back to that Detroit game, you actually mentioned it earlier, getting that win against a team that had beaten you previously. What was that game like for you? You had a great game overall, beating Detroit, your first career interception. You also had 4 pass breakups in that game. How special of a game was that for you, for both personally and for the team, getting that revenge?
It was a really, really fun game. I mean, action-packed from the jump. There was a lot of plays and players that stepped up in such big ways, and it was definitely good to get that win back from the playoffs. It's a game that I had circled all offseason that I was getting ready for and getting trained for. Catching the interception early, it kind of just put my mindset like, okay, we're good. Got the interception. Now let's just play football and see how much plays we can make.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. I mean, we had injuries. I know Izzy came in and plays a lot of safety for us. And there was a lot of guys that were running around, flying around. And it was a lot of fun that game for sure.
And holding that defense to 16 points, or sorry, that Lions offense to 16 points is not an easy thing to do. Did you do anything special with the football that when you got your first career pick? Is it hanging up anywhere or anything like that?
No, I just have it in my closet. I use it. I pass with it, catch with it. It's a lot of good juju on it. So,
I like it. It's like a lucky football.
Right.
So we did mention before as well that you did set your goals to have, 6 interceptions on the season, came a little bit short. So going into this season, are you setting that around that same number again? Do you think you're going to lead the team in interceptions like you did last season, being tied with Tyke? Because, the Bucs added in a couple of corners as well, like Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame. He had 9 interceptions while he was at Notre Dame. So how do you think about that going into this season?
It's perfect. I mean, production is the game and is the key for corners. I anticipate, and my goal will be 6 interceptions until I achieve that feat. And that's going to be my mentality. And I'm always going to shoot for everything and the stars and do everything that I can to get there. And adding pieces like Benjamin Morrison and Jacob Parrish, the young corners, just brings in new juice and new life and invigorates the entire room to compete, like I said, at that highest level. And so having guys that have ball production, it's going to be big time for the room, for the defense, and us moving forward to really solidify ourselves as ball hawks.
Zyon, Jamel Dean has had some unfortunate and untimely injuries that prompted the team to draft Benjamin Morrison in the second round. Zyon, believe it or not, Rondé Barber, who was a third-round pick in 1997, was so bad as a rookie that it prompted the team to draft Brian Kelly, another cornerback, in the second round the next year because they thought Rondé might be a bust. But that motivated Rondé to eventually develop into a Hall of Famer that he became. Now, I'm not comparing Jamel Dean to Rondé Barber in that capacity whatsoever. But, do you think that the competition between Jamel Dean and Benjamin Morrison can truly bring out the best in Jamel this year?
Absolutely. I mean, knowing Dean is not just the addition of Benjamin Morrison. It's also seeing one of his best buddies, Carlton Davis, go secure another his third contract extension. Yeah. And so there are a lot of things that is motivating Dean, and having a new rookie come in who is going to be competition from the start, just to enliven that corner room, it's going to bring the best out of us. And I was in a crowded corner room here my rookie year when we had Carlton, Sean, Murphy Bunting, and Dean. Yeah. And that training camp was extremely competitive. And it was guys, everybody wants to be a starter. They had the idea in that room. Our coach came up to us and said, everybody's job's up for grabs, go out, compete, and win the job in camp. Yeah. And so anytime that they're instilling that type of intensity for us, it's going to raise our games to a higher level. And Dean has proven that he can play at a high level when he's on his game. And I know that him as a player and as a person, he's just going to bring out the best in him.
Yeah, for sure. We're looking forward to that overall competition between, all of the corners, because it's certainly more of a deep group than I think it has been in, a couple of years, just from players being healthy and some of the newer players that were brought in as well. But I do want to talk about another team you're going to be facing this year, a team that you've seen a lot and I think might be a little personal to you for a couple of reasons. But the Philadelphia Eagles, you play once again, a team that you've seen a good amount, including last year defeating them. 2 years ago, they beat you on Monday Night Football, but then you clobbered them in the playoff game when it mattered most. Do you think you just have the Eagles number based on how these past couple of games have gone? Because they, haven't really been too close in the games that you guys won.
It definitely seems like we just have a really good matchup against the Eagles for whatever reason. It's a lot of fun playing them. Also playing against my twin brother. Yeah. And the Eagles are a great team, as are all teams in the NFL. But we've had the pleasure to get the best of them a couple of times, and we look forward to the matchup, and especially them coming back after winning a Super Bowl. Yeah, got a chance to go up and see that and see my brother playing that, which was pretty surreal for the family. A little bittersweet.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask.
We were in New Orleans too. I was like, I love this stadium. I love playing on this turf. This was the Super Bowl,
right?
But it was a lot of fun seeing him in his moment and them do what they did in the Super Bowl. And obviously that matchup next year is going to be an awesome one.
Yeah. Going back to that Eagles game last year, that game was incredibly hot, like a real scorcher. Was that the hottest game that you've ever played in? It seemed like even though you guys won that game handily, you weren't playing with anywhere close to a full tank of gas against Atlanta on Thursday night, just 4 days later. Did you feel like that brutally hot Eagles game took a little bit of something out of you on that Thursday night game against the Falcons?
Anytime you're playing in the heat, if you're not taking care and you're not staying on top of hydration, it's definitely going to be an issue. We have so many people and so many resources around us to make sure that we're at the height of our nutrition and our hydration and our recovery. Yeah. And so I don't really necessarily see it as an issue moving in to Thursday if you're doing everything that you have to do. Mm-hmm. Plus the offense did a great job of keeping the defense off of the field for a large time. And so as long as we're playing together, we can get through even the toughest of situations for sure, man.
Sometimes I feel like no one ever gets used to the heat. Like, we've all lived in Tampa for a little while now, and you still step outside. It's like, damn, like I can't imagine, going through a practice as well. But, that's why the Bucs wear the white jersey in September and October and move over to the red later in the season to, get that advantage.
Oh, yeah, we need that advantage. I mean, that was such a hot game. I remember when we played Chicago early. I think in 2023, it was an oppressive Heat game. I mean, the Heat is oppressive for the entire training camp. Sure. So luckily, in the early season, when teams come and have to play in that heat, it's definitely, I find it an advantage. I know it's an advantage. I've been in places where it's heat, and I've been in places where it's not, and training a lot up where it's a little bit cooler, and then coming down. And for the heat, if you don't prepare the right way, then it'll get the best of you.
The 49ers have beaten you guys in each of the last 3 years, but the games have gotten closer each year, with you guys losing at the end of that one last year, a heartbreaker, 23-20 at the end on that walk-off field goal. Is that a revenge game that you've circled on the schedule for you? You always have that red pen looking when the schedule comes out. Are there any other opponents that you're really excited to face? You mentioned Atlanta. You guys travel up to Detroit again in 2025. I know the schedule comes out a week from today. But what are your thoughts on some of the opponents that you guys are going to be playing, like the 49ers?
Yeah, I think, the schedule is really well. The 49ers is probably the game that, gets my red marker, that and them in Atlanta, just because the 49ers have just been the team that we have not been able to just get past for whatever reason. And looking just to get the better of them, especially at home, it was going to be big, and they somehow find a way to win again.
Yeah.
And so that's big motivation. Atlanta is a big one. I'm looking forward to playing a bunch of the teams that I haven't had the chance of playing yet. I know we have New England, Seattle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was on kickoff for the do we have Miami?
Yeah, you play.
You do have Miami.
Miami. So we've been playing Miami a lot in the preseason. We practiced against them a ton in the year, so it'll be fun to actually go good on good. That'll be a fun game. But a lot of big time matchups too. I'm looking forward to the schedule to come out to see our primetime games, because honestly, whoever's in those slots, I'm probably going to end up circling. So
Zion, what's it going to take for you guys to win a primetime game? You guys, unfortunately, came up short, and I know there's an overtime, 2 overtime games in primetime. You guys were close in so many of these. How frustrating was it to really go 0-4 in those primetime games, and then to lose another primetime game in Washington, or to Washington, in close fashion?
Actually, I said I was going to circle those primetime games, but I think sometimes we put too much emphasis on the fact that it's a primetime game, and it's, brought up all the eyes on. It's just another football game. It's just another game.
Yeah.
So,
Baker has said before he thinks part of the issue is just like you just got to wait around all day. Is there any aspect to that part of, like, usually you're playing at 1 o'clock or sometimes 4 o'clock, but when you have these 8 o'clock night games, you're just sitting around all day. I know, like I'd be like, come on, let's go, let's move it. I'm a little anxious over here. Is there any validity to what Baker said about that?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I know a lot of guys, they like to wake up and get straight to it. If you have so much time in between, you have family in the hotel, wants to hang out. Do you take a nap? You don't want to sleep too much.
Right.
You want to stay activated. And so there's just so many different ways that it can go with the night game, and you have to be able to stay locked in for such a long time. And we're only human, everybody, has a lot of things going on. So that's definitely a factor into night games.
Yeah.
Luckily, both teams have to go through it.
That's true. Speaking of the Bucs schedule, we're going to be having a special schedule show next Wednesday night at 8 o'clock, right when it's being revealed, right here on Pewter Report TV. So make sure you check out our Wednesday podcast, which will be in prime time. And at 8 o'clock, we're going to find out what the Bucs schedule is. We'll have live commentary and analysis on this show right there as the Bucs take on the Eagles and a whole host of other teams that have Zyon McCollum's attention, apparently. So check that out next Wednesday night at 8 o'clock right here on Pewter Report TV.
So we got to speak to Todd Bowles a couple of times during this offseason, from the Combine, the NFL annual meeting, a couple other press conferences. And, one thing Todd brought up is that the team needs to develop a killer instinct this upcoming season. And we actually had one of your defensive teammates on the show recently, Yaya Diaby. And, he agreed that the defense specifically needs to kind of develop a killer instinct. So what does that entail? And how do you think the defense and the team goes about that this year?
It entails being a dog and having that fire within you and that will to compete until the job is finished, and not stopping until it's more of a mindset, I think, than it is actual, physical things that happen. I think a lot of that is a product of the mindset and a product of the way that you're feeling and your will to go out there and get the job done. When you do anything, there's two ways that it can go, and playing a game, you can just do your job, or you can do your job and kill somebody at the same time. And demand that every rep, you're making sure that your opponent can feel you. And I think it's just developing into that. And a lot of that, to have that mindset, you have to be able to flush everything else out so that your mind is calm enough to be able to hold all that intensity and stuff. And I think that as the young guys in the program are beginning to come on and learn a lot more about this defense and develop, that there's going to be a lot more of that since guys' mindsets are starting to get to the point to where they can hold that.
Yeah. Speaking of Todd Bowles, he said at the NFL annual meeting that there's a new wrinkle in store for the defense this year. He said he had a eureka moment. Do you happen to know what that wrinkle is?
I don't know. Bowles always has something up his sleeve. He always has things cooking, and he loves defense, and he loves inventing ways to allow the players and the playmakers to make plays. And so we're just going to have to wait and see whatever it is. I know it's going to be a lot of fun, and offenses are probably going to hate it.
It's true.
Well said.
There's a mystery in the Bucs organization, Zyon, and maybe you can help solve it. Okay. Fans and some in the media griped that the Bucs cornerbacks in Todd Bowles' system at times play too soft, give up too much cushion on the outside. When we ask Bowles about that after games, sometimes he'll say that you cornerbacks need to play tighter. Then we ask you guys about it, and you guys say, well, we'd like to play more press man coverage and less off coverage. So which is it? Are you guys following orders and playing off coverage, or is that something you guys are electing to do in terms of maybe playing off a little bit more, and just take us through that process? Because I know each snap in each game is different.
Yeah, for sure. I'd say it's a little bit of both. There are certain calls and certain coverages in which we're needing to play a little bit softer because the underneath coverage is playing very, very aggressive. Mm-hmm. And we need to be able to stay on top of routes. And then there are certain situations where we go up and we play really, really aggressive. They also give us leeway to be able to do our own thing. And depending on what we're expecting, the plays that are the offense that we're running up against will determine how we play certain things and the way that we play certain things. And it just has to do with a lot of moving parts. Mm-hmm. I know that going into this next season, that is a huge emphasis. And Bowles has stopped me multiple times just in the hallways talking about the way that we're going to play and it's been discussed in meetings, how we're going to ramp up this aggressiveness. And it's not just going to be being able to allow offenses to have easy access throws. It's going to be competing on a whole new level. So what does that mean for us corners? Having to take our training to another level, getting even in better shape, understanding and learning the defense even better so that we can be able to play aggressive for 4 quarters straight, 17 games this season.
So you think that maybe it's playing more press man coverage on the outside, because when you do have that big cushion, unless you really anticipate, you're not going to be getting those interceptions and pass breakups. It's going to be more like let the guy catch it and then you rally and tackle so he doesn't get a first down or a big play, but you're not really putting yourself in position. So if I hear you correctly, if you do play more press man and be more aggressive, that should maybe solve the problem of fewer interceptions, right?
I think it's a part of it, a piece of it. Just being able to show the quarterbacks different looks in general, is really what's going to do it. And us working as a defense and us working with the help that we have and communicating in that aspect. I think that corners, in particular, just me being a corner, have a pretty large tell on what a defense is doing. I know quarterbacks normally read safeties and they'll see fronts and everything. But I think corners can also show a lot and disguise a lot by moving around. And I think us putting an emphasis on just getting better at that and being at the line of scrimmage more is going to confuse quarterbacks a little bit better when it comes to disguising coverage.
I'd venture to say when Coach Bowles is, telling you about the team wanting to be more aggressive and some of the things you just mentioned, it didn't really take much convincing for you to, be all in on that ideology.
No, absolutely not. I mean, me as an athlete and how I view myself as a player in this league, these are all things where I'm able to showcase my athleticism at the highest level. And anytime I'm in a position to where I can do that and really utilize the gifts that God has blessed me with is something that I'm going to want to take full advantage of.
Yeah, for sure. I'm curious, now that you've been on this team for a while and in the style of defense that Todd Bowles likes to run, do you recall a time, because we've seen Todd run a lot of exotic different things, players lining up in different areas. Do you recall maybe it was earlier in your career, maybe it was even last season where, you saw something in the playbook and was like, wait, how is that going to work out? And then like you saw it happen in a game or in practice and been like, oh, all right, yeah, like that totally makes sense now.
Absolutely. I mean, I think coming in as a rookie and seeing everything and all these exotic coverages for the first time, I was a little bit confused as to why and how everything was working or why we were supposed to play a certain way in a certain coverage. But going up and meeting one-on-one with Bowles and him discussing it and him talking about it, it just allowed me to calm down and see everything like, okay, we're meant to play, a little bit harder on this because the ball is going to be coming out quicker, or we're going to have to play loose here because other people are playing more aggressive, and we have to be able to be unselfish and to be able to play off of each other and to be able to just play, make the plays that come to us. Because Coach Bowles, one of the best things about him as a coach is putting his players in positions to be able to make plays. But if another person isn't doing their job, then it's kind of the play is in a sense wasted. Because the play will break down and it will be exposed in a different area. So us being able to be unselfish really is what allows his playbook to open up.
Go ahead, Matt.
I was going to say, and part of the position that you do play, you've gone up against some of the best wide receivers in the league, some of the most talented guys. So my question to you is, outside of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, who you go up against in practice and in training camp, who's the toughest wide receiver that you've played against? Somebody that has been a little challenging, some good back and forth. Anyone come to mind for you?
Toughest, I always say a lot. I mean, when we played the Texans, Nico Collins was an incredible receiver in terms of his size to athleticism. So he was a tough matchup. A lot of the short, quick guys are always a little bit tougher if they know how to use it. And Darnell Mooney is a great receiver. Atlanta, they have a pretty good receiving core as it is. I wouldn't say one guy that just completely stands out, but I'd say those guys.
Yeah, for sure.
We had Yaya Diaby on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about really stepping up his leadership. And he kind of said, I don't need a C in my chest to be a leader. Like Chris Godwin, he's a leader. I think he was only elected the team captain one time, but he's the guy leading that wide receiver room the entire offseason. He's at all the OTAs, et cetera. And Yaya's like, I don't need a C on my chest to be a leader. There could be a possibility, and I'm not writing Jamel Dean off just yet, but there could be a possibility that you're on the field with Antoine Winfield Jr., free safety. You got Tyke Smith in his second year at strong safety. Jacob Parrish might be the nickel, and you might be playing opposite Benjamin Morrison, where you might be the oldest guy in the secondary. Are you looking to take on more of a leadership role? I know that the Winfield is a tremendous safety. I'm not taking anything away from him, but you can have more than one leader, more than one vocal guy back there. And you're certainly not shy about, talking to the media and voicing your opinion and stuff. Is that something that you're maybe looking to do and take a step in that leadership direction this year?
Absolutely. I mean, becoming more vocal and just as a friend, as a teammate, all the things, and being able to get guys going, especially these young guys coming in, just being able to catch them up and get them, make it as level as a playing field as possible so that they understand the ins and the outs as quickly as possible will only elevate all of our games. But also when we get into actual games, and there are situations to where that exact scenario could as well very happen. I mean, anything is possible. And being able to solidify that trust early on as being more of a vocal leader here in OTAs and going into training camp, is something that I look forward to stepping into, and it comes apart in just building that team cohesion.
And Winfield was one of those guys that there wasn't out there, unfortunately, for every game. And so it might be a situation where you are the elder statesman out there. Let's hope that Winfield is back to being a full season participant. How will that return of not just Winfield, but the return of the Winfield that we've seen in prior years? Because last year wasn't his best year. He was dealing with the foot injury. Then he gets back. He makes that scoop and score. You actually helped knock the ball out of Chris Olave's hand and knocked him out of the game with the big hit down there in New Orleans for his scoop and score. But having Antoine Winfield Jr. back to being his old all-pro self, what is that going to do for you and this secondary and this Todd Bowles defense?
It opens up so much. I mean, he's a special player, and when he's healthy, he's an all-pro player on a down-to-down basis, and just his versatility and being able to do so many different things. He lines up all over the field, and he gets to almost every spot in the field that you want him to. He's a tremendous leader, a tackler, a ball hawk himself. And so having him back there, deep, it's a corner's best friend. I said previous that, anybody playing alongside Antoine, you could pick off somebody off the street, and if they're playing alongside Antoine, they're going to be able to get through an NFL game.
Right.
And so, just having his presence in there is always, a big thing for this defense.
You almost scored a touchdown last year against the Baltimore Ravens. Zyon, I'm telling you right now, I was freaking out in the press box because I actually had a prop bet on you with an anytime touchdown. So the league cost me money out of my pocket because I would have won hundreds of dollars on that. And I know that would have been another football that went into your closet with your first NFL touchdown. What was that moment like? Because if memory serves, you scooped the ball up and you were racing towards the goal line, and about the 5-yard line, there was like this massive rugby scrum, and your teammates pushed you over the goal line, but it was all for naught.
It was a hard pill to swallow, because that was a game in Baltimore where we were losing at the time, and it was like I was mad, and I was trying to do anything I could to make a play, and I just opportunity just on a gold platter. I was like, there's the football, picked it up. And I thought that I didn't have possession until I had stood up because I was bobbling around.
Right.
And I was just so focused. I was completely convinced that this was going to be my touchdown.
Yeah.
And I was like, just don't stop moving your legs. Just don't stop moving your legs. I couldn't see anything.
No one was rooting harder for you to score than me. I'm just telling you that right now, just in complete transparency.
Oh, my goodness. When I made it to the end zone, I was no way. I was just kind of like stunned, the pounding. Yeah. Chris Braswell, I remember him. He was like, we did. Because he was dragging me along, and he was like, hey, we got to share that ball. Right. It was a team effort. I could not have done it with everybody else about the 5-yard line just coming in and slamming me in. But then he was down. I was hurt.
That's one of the toughest feelings really you could have playing the game. But you know what? There's still plenty of time in your career to get a defensive touchdown. So, it's just a minor setback for a major comeback.
Exactly. There we go.
I want to get back to Coach Bowles real quick, because he spoke about you at the NFL Combine, and he was quite complimentary, but he was also a little critical as well. He said, I think Zyon played very well most of the time, talking about your overall performance during the season. I think when he got bored, he took chances and didn't play with as much technique. If he can just play with the technique and play all the way through and not get bored with his concentration and competes, he'll be fine. Zyon is definitely on the rise. Now, I don't know what conversations you had with Coach Bowles, in the building when the season had ended, but how do you react to those quotes from Coach Bowles about you?
I have to agree with him. Watching the film and assessing myself and my play, and just knowing how I carry myself at times, doing things and becoming redundant and not necessarily getting the result that you necessarily think is going to happen. It might have caused me to try to go for other people's plays and go outside of my own job, and doing things like that is only going to hurt the defense as a whole and myself. And so being able to just not get bored with the basics, if I'm locking down my side of the field, then just continue to do that. Don't outreach or try to switch things up necessarily in an attempt to bring more plays your way. The plays will come. Don't be greedy.
Yeah.
It's tough not to, though, right? Because you see guys at a different position, a little different, but like Ed Reed would, try to fake Peyton Manning into throwing to his side to go and recover. But, when you play within the confines of a defense, there's only so much you can do to go and be a playmaker, and you kind of have to hope the ball goes your way. But at the same time, if you're doing your job and you're covering, then the ball might not, because you're doing an excellent job. So I don't know, it's a little bit of a tough situation.
Yeah, it's like a catch-22, I guess, but for me, it's just finding ways to stay consistent, because like I said, 70, 80 snaps in a game, you got about, 15 to 16 defensive players who will get snaps. Divide that up and everybody's going to get 2-3 plays. It could be an interception one game. It could be a tackle for loss, a sack. It could be a game-winning tackle. Though that play could be at any point in time. And so as long as I stay locked in on my job, then I know that guaranteed I'm going to have 3 opportunities to make a difference on the game. And if all 11, all 15 guys who are playing that defensive game play like that, then everybody's winning and Bucs win.
I'm not putting words in your mouth. You've told me you're the fastest player on this team, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, you're the fastest player on this team.
No question.
So how much have you been lobbying Coach Bowles to come with like a corner fire blitz, right? To get that sack, to check that box in your stat sheet.
Oh, 100%. I mean, he sent me on a blitz, my very first blitz in the league, preseason versus the Dolphins in 2022. And I completely missed the quarterback had the ball. I'm thinking the running back has the ball. It was just a complete dud moment. And Bowles was like, I'm not going to send you on I'm not sending you on another blitz until I know that it's going to hit. And so I've had to slowly but surely prove to him that I can rush the passer and do things like that. And
you're chasing down Bryce Young there.
And so as we go moving forward, it's definitely something that I'm going to continue to egg him on about. And I think we're on the same page.
You can't let Antoine have all the fun with those sacks, right?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. You got to share the love.
I wanted to ask you, George Edwards, who I've been critical about as an outside linebackers coach. We saw the sack production go down. I'm super excited to see Larry Foote take over that position again, because before you were here, he was the outside linebackers coach. Shaq Barrett, Jason Pierre-Paul, Pro Bowlers, helped this team win a Super Bowl, etc. I just feel like he's at home base now. And at the same time, George Edwards is such a strategist. I mean, he has so many years as a defensive coordinator in this league. Now he's the passing game coordinator, helping that defense out, the defense that needs to get more interceptions, that needs to eliminate those coverage busts and those breakdowns that drive Coach Bowles crazy. What type of impact do you think George Edwards makes in the back half of that defense? What have you noticed so far in talking with him, and how is he going to help the back end of this defense become more of a lockdown defense?
Yeah, I think it's going to build a lot. I mean, solely, like I've been talking about, the cohesion and bridging the gap between all the defensive backfield rooms and bringing them together under one roof and allowing the communication to be seamless with any question.
So just to stop you, that's something that's kind of new that's going to be happening is meeting more together with corners and safeties as an entire secondary, right?
Yeah, meeting more together, communicating in the building before we go out to the practice field, being able to ask questions to each other, but also having somebody, just another voice who understands the defense at the highest level and understands the ins and outs of all the defensive backfield positions, and being able to get those answers and to communicate with each other before we even get out there. It's ramping up the coaching to another level to where we're going to be more detail oriented and we're going to understand our jobs better. But then it's also allowing us to, the first time that we're communicating, me and Antoine calling out something that we see on film.
Yeah.
Whereas in previous years it's been on the field, now we can communicate and make those calls beforehand. So I think it's a huge addition just to allowing us to be able to upgrade our football knowledge and build team cohesion.
Yeah. You've been to the offseason program this spring. It looks like it's been very well attended. Has there been anyone standing out? For example, last year, I think you told us the shape that Vita Vea was in when you were last on the Pewter Report podcast. Is there anybody that has put on a considerable amount of size or slimmed down? Anybody caught your eye in the offseason phase so far?
This particular offseason phase, I think we're at the highest level of training that we've been at previously. I mean, it seems like they just continue to ramp it up, and which is, I mean, I love, and all the guys are embracing. And so it's a lot more competition, and it's a lot more, high level sprinting and changing direction and types of drills that are allowing us to become closer, but also go through those trials and tribulations of, it almost feels, like a college workout type of vibe where, you're really out there grinding.
Yeah.
And there have been guys who have been there. I've been in Tampa for pretty much the entire offseason working out the facility. And, there have been guys who, they probably haven't missed a day since the season ended. Guys like Yaya, Lou Gadecki, Tristan Wirfs, Chris is always there, getting his injuries situated and trying to get back. And there's been a lot more attendance of guys who they haven't left, where they've just continued to work out and continue to train and continue to prepare.
You guys have some unfinished business, right?
Yeah. Who's the main hype man in the weight room? I would maybe guess Tristan Wirfs, but when it's getting loud in there and the weights are getting lifted, who's the one that's pumping everybody up maybe more than most?
The banter between Yaya and Kalijah is loud.
Checks out.
And Jose and a lot of the outside linebackers and D tackles, the D line group in general, and linebackers, like I said, the cohesion is coming together. Everybody's gelling. And so it's a lot of playful, fun banter, competing, getting after it. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
You mentioned the defense. You're going to have a new middle linebacker, Sevasier Dennis, who was really coming on strong with those first 4 games, had 11 tackles against Detroit in week 2, was key in that victory. Shoot, his first NFL sack was against Jaden Daniels, which y'all found out is very hard to do. What have you seen so far from Sevasier Dennis with your time? I know he's missed some time due to injury in his first 2 seasons in Tampa, but what type of year are you expecting from Sevasier? He's had 3 years in this defense now. He certainly knows that high IQ, very cerebral guy.
Yeah, he's very, very present, and he has a calmness to his demeanor that, he knows what's going on. He's very, very smart. He's very intelligent. And so his approach that he takes to the game, to workouts, is definitely one to where you understand, you definitely know that he's going to also step up as a leader on this team. And his voice is definitely going to be heard, and getting guys lined up and making sure that, nobody's making any stupid mistakes and having everybody's head straight. And it's definitely fun and cool to see. It's what you want as a middle linebacker, somebody who has an understanding of the entire defense and isn't afraid to call people out.
Very cool.
Respect that for sure. So this is a big season for you. You're going into your 4th season. It's also a contract year. So I'm curious, does that impact you at all this season with thinking about it? And are you also open to signing an extension with this team?
As a player and a human, Tampa, I love Tampa, and I want to stay here I want that Mike Evans career, Levante David. I think anybody drafted here aspires to be on the same team for their entire career. And as far as my mindset and how that shapes who I am and where I'm going into the season, it doesn't really change anything. I know for a fact, no matter what, I'm going to be putting on pewter and red come 2025 season. So I'm just continuing to focus on everything that I've been focusing on. The same thing that got me here, the same thing that has allowed me to grow and to progress year to year. Yeah. Being the best at everything that I can do and finding creative ways to elevate my game to make more bounds and leaps. Everything else is going to come, and I'm understanding and I'm accepting that fact. And so it's not really too much of an impact on my mind. My mind is mainly focused on what I can do to dominate when I get onto the field.
We've seen, legends. You mentioned Mike Evans. Mike Evans has had to play in a contract year. He's entering another contract year, right? He's had to do that. We saw Antoine Winfield Jr. have to play in a contract year. That certainly worked out very well for him. But we've also seen this team go to players before they reach that contract year. Tristan Wirfs got an extension this time last year before he had to play on that fifth-year option. If the team approached you about signing a contract extension this offseason, would that be something that you're open to?
Definitely something I'm open to, being able to have that security and being able to know that, you're locked down for years to come. It gives you a different, sense of safeness and wanting to make plays. As far as how I view where I want my season to be next year, whether it's an extension comes or whether it doesn't, I plan on having the same season. I plan on achieving the same goals, but just being able to have an extension in place, is, as a human being, and having that security and it being life-changing, and also being in a place where I love and I want to be, it would only be just a sign of good faith and want to go out and prove everything that I can do and that I'm capable of, and show them the player who I am.
Go ahead, Matt.
I was going to say, and contract aside, how do you feel about this team going into the season? Because offensively, pretty much, actually not even pretty much, everybody's coming back on the offensive side, plus drafting Emeka Egbuka. 4 out of the 6 players in this draft were defensive players that are now on this team. They signed Hassan Reek this offseason. So, and everyone's just healthier on defense, which was a big issue last season. So what is your mindset? How do you feel about the team going into the 2025 season?
I feel super excited. I feel like the pieces that we have in place offensively and defensively, we're prepped and ready to contend for a Super Bowl and ready to compete for that. And the locker room, how it's developed, it's getting closer and closer. It almost seems like all the stars are beginning to get into alignment. And they're about to start, some special things are getting ready to be able to take place, and just the competition alone from everybody that we're bringing in and everybody that we have now already and that's developed. I think, Bucs training camp is must-see TV. It's going to be high-level competition every single day and grinding it out, and it's going to make us better as players and as people.
You talking about stars. One of the new stars is somebody, this team is not a team that typically brings in a lot of free agents. Usually it's draft and develop and then re-sign those stars, guys like yourself. But Hassan Reek, he might be your new best friend, Zion, because he's going to be pressuring those quarterbacks, and there might be some errant passes going your way as a result, or they might not even get the pass off at all. He's been out there. What are your first impressions of Hassan Reek as one of your new teammates?
Yeah, super excited. I got a chance to meet him and have a conversation with him and, talk back and forth about how we're going to make each other better and how we're going to make each other play a lot of plays this season. And he played a year with my brother in Philly.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there was already a little bit of a connection there. So I'm super excited. I know, he's just going to elevate everybody in that room's game to another level. And I mean, it almost seems like every position group, everybody's going to be competing at the highest level, and everybody's competition is going to be raised. And so it's a lot of fun to think, and it's very, very eager, thinking about it, moving forward. And as a corner, seeing the pass rushers just continue to beef up, I couldn't be happier.
Yeah. We have a couple super chats before we let you go, Zion. We really appreciate your time. This one's from Mark Fisher, $4.99 super chat. Can't watch live, but would love to know what Zion attributes to the secondary only getting 7 interceptions as a team, and how to change it. Zion's come so far since 2022. So we talked a little bit about that, but have there been any types of new drills, or has it just been more of like a mentality when it comes to taking away the football? I've always been a big believer that you can only do so much on the jugs machine, right? Because there's no jugs machines out there on Sundays, right? It's live football with the wind blowing it, thrown by quarterbacks, caught by receivers, and hopefully deflected or caught by cornerbacks too. So what are you going to be doing from a standpoint that is not jugs machine related, but in order for this secondary to get more interceptions?
Like I talked about the cohesion piece and, us working together. Last year there were so many different pieces that were plugged in. I mean, I think we went on a stretch of games to where the secondary, I don't think it was the same, for 5 games in a row.
That's right.
And allowing people to understand that at any point in time, it's your time.
Right.
And step up and to play at a high level, to play exactly how you do in practice, exactly how you do in training camp, in the games, is for one going to allow us just to make more plays on the ball because of the mindset aspect, but also us being able to play more aggressive. We're going to be, getting closer to the line of scrimmage, not showing the quarterback the same look, and trying to confuse and create opportunities to go take the ball away as well.
We have another one from King Koopa. Thanks for the $4.99. Says, how vanilla is preseason games? Will corners get to show cover skills or worry about scheme?
For the most part, in the preseason, the way that Coach Bowles does it is going to be primarily man-to-man. He likes to use, training camp and preseason games as the ability to see whose raw talent is going to show up. So I remember my rookie year, I think we ran man-to-man probably, 75% of the time. He wants to see who can cover and who can't. So it'll definitely be more of, pass rushers are going to rush, corner guys are going to cover, and that's mainly how the entire league kind of works. Trying to see what they have.
No one's trying to give away any specific details in the preseason with the regular season right there. Real quick, just you are a fan favorite among Bucs fans, so just want to read off some comments from some other listeners as well. Cruz on the radio says, Zion spent like 20 minutes taking pics with the fans after the Panthers game. Thought that was super cool. And my wife was so excited to get his autograph. Great player and great human. Another Portland artist says, Zion, love to watch you play. And then Vintage Fly giving their own prediction for you. I know you said 6 interceptions, saying 7 interceptions and a Pro Bowl. That'd be pretty cool to see as well. Get you into that Pro Bowl.
Yeah, no, I love interacting with the fans and with everybody and giving them that opportunity. I was once on their side of it, so being able to be on as a player and return that, I mean, I love doing that and showing love, and let's get 7 interceptions. It says my goal was 6, but my boy's saying 7 in a Pro Bowl, so maybe we gotta up it.
Speak it into existence, Zion. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, I really appreciate having you on the show again. You said we'll do this as an annual tradition, so that means you'll probably get extended for 4 to 5 more years. So we'll have you in the offseason for at least, through 2030 or so. So looking forward to that, man.
I can't wait. Shoot. Let's sign a 10-year. Let's up it. Why stop at 5?
There we go. Yeah. Buccaneer for life. We'll just do the contract there. So that's awesome. Really appreciate you joining us, Zion.
Thanks so much,
We'll see you at OTAs sooner rather than later.
All right. Yeah, sounds good. Look forward to seeing you guys out there.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Zyon McCollum and his brother Tristan. He's going to have to give his another L to his brother and those Eagles when they come to town. I think that the Buccaneers do have their number, and I think that's cool. But those two look an awful lot alike, don't they? Yeah. There's Baker Mayfield going, "Hey, man, you have a twin."
Yeah, right.
Oh man, what a great guy! Just one of those players that you root for. We're human beings, right? We're supposed to be objective and we're fair. We're fair. Listen,
I mean, we asked him about the critique of his head coach
Absolutely.
about how he played last year. I mean, I don't know how much more, and about like the off coverage that Bucs fans were enraged about during the season. So we cover it all, good, bad, not too much ugly with Zion's play specifically, but we cover it all.
But he's one of those guys though that just is a good guy, and
always
so
smiling.
Many of them.
It's tough to be mad at someone that's smiling nonstop and
That's
playing
true.
well too,
Exactly. Just a couple of quick programming notes here. We do not have a show tomorrow, but we will have a show on Friday, as Matt and I will be at Bucs rookie minicamp, and we'll be recapping day one around 3:30. So make sure you tune into Pewter Report TV for that. Coach Bowles will be speaking around 2:30, and then we'll have time to put together our notes, file a story or two, and then jump on a Pewter Report podcast for you guys live from the team facility. So we're looking forward to that on Friday. And then, as I mentioned during the show, next Wednesday night, Bucs 2025 schedule release show. That's going to be live at 8 o'clock, right when the schedule comes out. Join myself, Matt Matera, and we'll see if we can get some other Pewter reporters to join us as well to get their thoughts on the 2025 schedule. We know the opponents, just don't know when those games are going to be played. We even asked Zion about the Ofer in primetime last year. Hopefully that changes. That's something that I know Buccaneer fans, certainly, Matt, outside of Tampa, they love to watch their team on Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, because the game might not be on in their area otherwise. And so this is like one of those times they get to watch their team. And when they come up short, it stings, especially when you have to go into work the next day, whether it's a Monday or if it's a Thursday night game, you go in on a Friday, or if it's a Monday night game, you go in on a Tuesday. Maybe you just don't go in at all because the Bucs haven't won on primetime. But we'll find out when those primetime games are. I got to think with Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans and Levante David.
They're going to have at least three.
I would
say minimum three. Like
I agree.
They probably get a Thursday, and they're definitely going to get a Monday game. So
exactly,
it just kind of depends that Sunday night. But
for sure. Wanted to let you guys know a couple of things real quick that's very important. It's very important that we address our Pewter Platinum members. Forgot to do that yesterday, so my goodness, we apologize for that. But Scott Federico, Rachel Gordon, Noah Parr, Scotty J, Dave Anderson, Hezo813, Ash Fishpool, Joel Elrican, Sam, John Dale Morris, Zach Brannigan, RP89, Eric McMillan, Connor For Reals, Zach Jarvis, Kevin Thomas, and Mario Thomas. If you are a Pewter Platinum member and you have not emailed me with your address, you need to do so. It's very important. sr@pewterreport.com. Please do that. Zyon McCollum is going to be coming to our get-together along with Mike Greenberg, and we'll let you know when and where that's going to be because we're finalizing that. But I'm not going to be able to let you know unless you email me. So make sure that you're a current Pewter Platinum member and you email me at sr@pewterreport.com. It's going to be in June, so we'll have all of the particulars about the time and the location for our Pewter Platinum members to attend that. But it's going to be cool. We'll have the Pewter Report staff there as well. Also, if you have not given Briar Greaves a phone call yet, please do so. Folks, I'm telling you, they're the best in the business. The late, great Mark Cook turned me on to them. They are my personal insurance agency. They're family-owned and operated. They're local here in Tampa. They can help you across the state as well. Homeowners, auto, flood, boat, business. Hurricane season's right around the corner. Don't get caught without flood insurance if you live in a flood zone. If you're in Pinellas, if you're in Pasco, even in Hillsborough, there's some areas. You have to have flood insurance if you have any water damage in your house. Homeowners won't protect that. That'll help with the roof. That'll help with the contents, but you need the flood insurance as well. So make sure you're covered. One phone call to Briar Greaves Insurance, and they can save you money on your auto, on your homeowners. They can get you hooked up with the flood, or maybe you have a boat. They can do it all. So make sure you give them a call, 813-876-4166. Save some money. Let them do the legwork, and they'll shop all the other agencies and get the best price, the best coverage for you and your family. BriarGreavesInsurance.com.
Make sure you check them out. And then after that, please, if you're not already doing so, follow us on our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We are at Pewter Report. Our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Make sure you like and subscribe. Also, I think there was a special milestone that we made with our YouTube channel.
That's right. Yeah, there actually is. Yeah, folks, believe it or not, you have been part of our 1,000th episode of the Pewter Report podcast here on the Pewter Report TV YouTube channel. Now, we've been doing the Pewter Report podcast for years. Matter of fact, myself, Mark Cook, the late, great MC, we miss Cookie big time.
Dude.
Trevor Sikkema was part of the original audio podcast. You, Matt Matera, were also a part of it with Taylor Grizz Jenkins as well. And then we took years ago, we brought this to, I want to say it was 2020. Does that sound about right?
It probably lines up given what was, going on in the world. But I want to say around 2020, maybe late 2019. No, probably 2020, because we probably started it for that season.
Yep, I think you're right. And I remember when Bruce Arians was on the show with Mark Cook, doing an appearance after the Super Bowl in that season. So, yeah, folks, 1,000 episodes of the Pewter Report podcast on our Pewter Report TV YouTube channel, live and in the flesh. So we greatly appreciate all of you for helping us grow our Pewter Report TV YouTube channel. We're approaching 19,000. We're already over 18,500, like lickety split. We want to get to 19,000 by training camp. And then during the season, we're going to hit 20. And that's going to be an amazing milestone. All thanks to you. We greatly appreciate your support. Again, if you have not become a Pewter Report TV channel member, it's a great way to support our efforts here. Just hit the join button. You'll see all of the different membership levels, different perks. You can check that out on the front page. Everything from $3.99 a month to $24.99 a month helps us. We use a lot of this revenue for our travel budget, going to the NFL annual meetings. Next year, it's in Arizona, so we got to fly out there. We go to the Mobile Senior Bowl. We go to Indianapolis at the NFL Scouting Combine. So that's where we go. If we go on road trips to different locations during the season to cover games, it all comes from the travel budget from our channel membership. So it's a great way to support our efforts here. Greatly appreciate it. And last but not least, help your business score new customers. You can advertise with us on our Pewter Report podcast, website, and social media. Lots of different ways we can help your business get those new customers. So make sure you email me at sr@pewterreport.com. If you're interested in sponsorship opportunities, I'm happy to have a conversation with you. It's a great way to get your business out in front of just some amazing people, which is you guys, our Pewter people.
That is correct. So yes, please follow us on all of our social media. Like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Pewter Report TV. Leave a comment on that video as well. Reminder, no show tomorrow, but we will have a show a little bit earlier on Friday once practice is done for the Bucs rookie minicamp and after we speak to Todd Bowles. So been a lot of fun. We'll continue that fun on Friday as well. So for two-time recurring guest Zyon McCollum, for Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thank you so much to everybody for watching. Thanks for viewing us for 1,000 episodes of the Pewter Report podcast on our YouTube channel. And we will see you on Friday for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.